We're going to dive into something pretty exciting today. The recent Arsenal versus Manchester City match.
Big one.
Yeah, you're curious about all the hype surrounding it, and we've got these two articles that we're going to use to kind of dig into it.
Yeah, this was no ordinary match. It had huge implications for the Premier League title race.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Arsenal chasing the leaders, Liverpool, and then City having a surprisingly tough season.
Definitely. And I think what's really cool about these articles is they give you more than just like the play-by-play. You get these narratives and the player reactions and some of the psychological tension between these two rivals.
Yeah, and that sometimes, reveals a lot more than just the final score.
Right.
Gives you a glimpse into, your thinking in the mental game.
For sure. Okay, so let's set the scene.
Yeah.
Arsenal, hungry for a title, come out with this explosive start against the reigning champs.
Yeah.
I mean, scoring the first 2 minutes against a team like City,
It's a statement.
It's a statement. It's a calculated risk, too, I think.
Right.
Arteta, knowing that City, when they lose possession, maybe they have a little vulnerability transitioning back.
Yeah.
Instructs his team to press high and exploit any gaps.
Yeah.
Which is something, he probably learned during his time under Guardiola at City.
Right, exactly, using their tactics against them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that happens, but then City's Erling Haaland.
Right, the goal-scoring machine.
This goal-scoring machine, I mean, he does what he does best.
Yeah.
He equalizes with his 25th goal of the season.
25th goal already. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but you sense maybe a little bit of over-reliance on him from City.
Right.
Almost like, they expect him to
single-handedly.
Yeah, solve their defensive woes, which have been surprisingly frequent this season.
Uncharacteristically frequent this season.
Right, for them.
Yeah, but then Arsenal doesn't let that, setback phase them.
Nope.
Almost immediately, they capitalize on this misplaced pass. Yeah.
From Phil Foden.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Partey sees this opportunity, fires this long-range shot, and puts Arsenal back in the lead.
I mean, that's a crucial turning point.
Yeah.
Not only did it demonstrate their resilience, but it also highlighted this kind of growing sense of unease within City's ranks.
Yeah.
Their usually impenetrable defense seems a little shaky and prone to errors.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit off.
Yeah.
And then you have this moment that I think really captures the energy of this match.
Yeah.
18-year-old Miles Lewis-Skelly.
Wow.
Scores his first Arsenal goal.
First goal.
And then celebrates by mimicking Haaland's signature meditative pose.
Talk about audacity.
I mean...
for a young player to show that level of confidence on such a big stage, it speaks volumes about the winning mentality Arteta has instilled in this team.
It really does. And it wasn't a fluke, right? 5 different Arsenal players found the back of the net during this match.
Right.
It highlights their depth. It highlights their tactical flexibility.
Yeah, it's not just one star player. It was a collective effort.
That's right. And that's something that, Guardiola's going to need to address.
Yeah.
City looked out of sorts in this game, unable to impose their usual dominance.
Yeah, and you see the articles capture this frustration right in the City camp. John Stones even goes as far as apologizing to the fans and admitting that the team's performance was far below their usual standard.
Which, is a testament to the high standards that City have set for themselves.
Right.
But also a sign that the pressure's mounting.
Yeah.
They're not used to being in this position.
They're not used to this.
No.
So you have this resurgent Arsenal.
Right.
You have a champion struggling to find their footing.
Yeah.
And this young player making this bold statement. I mean, this is more than just a match. This is a potential turning point in the Premier League.
And I think as we dig deeper into these articles, we're going to see just how deep this shift in power might go.
Now we'll be back in a moment to dig into those tactical nuances and the psychological impact of this match. But before we do consider this, if you were managing a team against a giant like City, where would you focus your strategy? Could exploiting their mental state be as potent as any tactical maneuver?
It raises this fascinating question. Is the real battle for the title won in the minds of the players before they even set foot on the pitch?
We'll be back in just a moment to explore that very question.
Stay with us.
Welcome back. That question you posed there before the break about the mental game really gets to the heart of what makes this match so intriguing.
Yeah, it's almost like we're seeing a clash of philosophies as much as like a clash of footballing styles, right? You have City, this team that's used to dictating the pace, relying on their well-oiled machine.
Right.
And then on the other side, you have this hungry young Arsenal squad that's just fueled by this belief that they can topple the Giants.
Yeah, and it's a classic underdog story, but with a tactical twist, right?
Right.
Arteta, having worked under Guardiola at City,
Has this intimate understanding of their system.
Yeah.
He's able to anticipate their moves, exploit their weaknesses, and really instill a sense of doubt that we haven't seen in that City camp for quite some time.
Yeah, it's not just about individual talent or physical prowess. It's using that knowledge to kind of disrupt their mental game, right? Make them question their own dominance.
Precisely. And you saw it in those uncharacteristic errors from City. You
Yeah.
know, those weren't just lapses in concentration. Those were a reflection of the pressure that Arsenal was exerting,
Right.
Forcing them into uncomfortable positions and disrupting their flow.
Yeah, it's like that famous Mike Tyson quote, right? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Right.
Arsenal landed that first punch early on, and it seemed to shake City's composure.
Yeah, throughout the match. And that brings us to the tactical side of things.
Okay.
Arsenal employed this high-pressing strategy, specifically targeting City's fullbacks, Cancelo and Walker,
Right.
who were usually so pivotal in City's build-up play. By closing them down quickly, they forced City into these hurried passes and turnovers.
So it was a calculated gamble that forced City away from their preferred style of play.
Exactly. And it paid off. We saw a number of City's attacks just break down because they were rushed and lacked their usual precision.
So almost like they turned City's strength, which is this patient possession-based game, into a weakness.
And this is where Arteta's understanding of Guardiola's system really shines through.
Right.
He knew that if you disrupt that rhythm early on, if you make them doubt their own passing game, you create those opportunities.
Okay, let's talk about formations a little bit.
Okay.
City lines up in their usual 4-3-3, but Arsenal opted for a more fluid 4-2-3-1, which allowed them to overload the midfield and create these numerical advantages in key areas.
Right. And that was particularly effective in winning the ball back in midfield and launching those quick counterattacks.
Yeah.
Partey and Xhaka, the two holding midfielders for Arsenal, were instrumental in breaking up City's play and then quickly transitioning into attack.
So they weren't just defending deep and hoping to catch City on the break. They were actively seeking to disrupt their build-up play and force them into those mistakes.
Precisely. And that proactive approach was evident throughout the match.
Yeah.
Arsenal's players were constantly buzzing around City's midfielders, making it so difficult for them to find their rhythm.
Yeah, and you see this intensity kind of wear them down as the match progresses.
Yeah, you could see their frustration growing, especially after Hamlet's goal.
Yeah.
It was almost like they expected to just regain control after equalizing.
Yeah.
But Arsenal didn't allow that to happen.
Right.
They stuck to their game plan. They continued to press high,
Yeah.
forcing City into more errors.
And those errors lead to more goals for Arsenal. It wasn't just Lewis Skelly's audacious finish, right? You have goals from a variety of players.
Yeah, a variety of players
showcasing that depth and the versatility of their attack.
Yeah, and it's a stark contrast to City,
Right.
who seemed overly reliant on Haaland for their goals.
Right.
And while he's undoubtedly a phenomenal talent, a team can't solely depend on one player.
Right.
Especially when you're facing a well-organized and tactically disciplined opponent like Arsenal.
Right. It raises this point about team dynamics and the dangers of over-reliance on a single star player.
Absolutely. In a team sport like football, it's the collective effort,
Yeah.
the synergy between players, and the tactical acumen of the manager that ultimately make the difference.
Right.
And in this match, Arsenal displayed all those qualities in abundance.
And that brings us back to that question you raised earlier, right?
Yeah.
Is this the beginning of a new era for Arsenal?
Right.
Can they sustain this momentum, this hunger, this tactical discipline throughout the rest of the season?
That's the challenge for any team that experiences a sudden surge in form.
Yeah.
They'll need to guard against complacency, avoid injuries, maintain that level of intensity week in and week out.
Right. And they're going to have to be adaptable, right? Their opponents are now going to be studying their tactics, looking for ways to counter their high-pressing style.
Absolutely. This match has put them on the map, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're no longer the underdog. They're genuine contenders.
Right.
And with that comes a whole new level of scrutiny and expectation.
So the pressure is on.
Yeah, the pressure is on. How they handle that pressure will determine their ultimate success.
Okay, so as we move into the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore the implications of this match for both Arsenal and City and what it might mean for the future of the Premier League. But first, I want you to think about this.
Okay.
If you were Guardiola What adjustments would you make to counter Arsenal's tactics? Would you focus on tightening up that defense, finding ways to bypass their press, or maybe even changing your formation?
It's a complex puzzle, and finding the solution is going to be crucial for City if they want to reclaim that dominance.
Yeah, that's a great question to think about, right? How does a team like City, known for its tactical prowess, how do they adapt to a challenge like this? And I think these articles offer some clues, not just in like the match analysis, but in the player reactions.
You're right. You take John Stone's post-match comments.
Right.
His apology to the fans wasn't just about the loss. It hinted at this recognition that something deeper is amiss.
Right.
You know, they're not playing with their usual swagger.
Yeah.
And that's as much a mental hurdle as a tactical one.
It's like they've become the hunted instead of the hunter, right?
Right. Okay, so,
for years, they've been the team setting the pace, and now they're the ones having to adjust and react.
and that can be a difficult transition.
Right.
Especially for a team that's so accustomed to success.
Yeah.
They're not used to being doubted,
Right.
to having their weaknesses exposed so blatantly.
Yeah. So what's the solution? How do they regain that aura of invincibility?
Well, it's not just about fixing those defensive errors. It's about rediscovering that collective confidence, that almost telepathic understanding that made them so dominant.
Yeah, the articles touch upon this idea that maybe City has become a bit predictable, right? Opponents have had years to study their system to anticipate their moves.
And that's where Guardiola's tactical genius, I think, will be tested.
Right.
You know, he's known for his flexibility, his willingness to experiment. You know, we might see him tweak formations, shift player roles, even introduce some surprise elements to keep opponents guessing.
It's interesting to think about how this one match could trigger this chain reaction and force other teams to adapt their strategies as well.
Absolutely. If Arsenal continues to employ this high-pressing, aggressive style, other teams are going to need to find ways to counter it.
Yeah.
We might see a shift towards quicker transitions, more direct play, even a resurgence of formations that are designed to break down those high defensive lines.
So this Arsenal victory could have this ripple effect on the entire league, changing the tactical landscape in ways that we can't fully predict.
And that's what makes football so captivating, right?
Yeah.
It's this constant evolution, a game of chess where every move can have these far-reaching consequences.
Yeah. And, you know, thinking back to those quotes from Odegaard and Havertz, they weren't just celebrating a win. They were emphasizing the importance of belief.
Right.
Of team spirit.
And that's a crucial ingredient in any underdog story.
Yeah.
It's that intangible element, that collective will to win that can propel a team beyond its perceived limitations.
It's a reminder that sometimes the biggest victories are won not just on the pitch, but in the minds of the players.
And that's a valuable lesson, I think, for anyone.
Yeah.
Whether you're a football fan, an athlete, or just navigating the challenges of life.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave you with this final thought. In football, just as in life, momentum can shift in an instant. What appears to be an insurmountable obstacle can become a stepping stone, and those who were once dismissed as underdogs can rise to the occasion and reshape the entire game.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. We hope you've gained some new insights and perhaps even some inspiration from this deep dive.